Hi guys, happy Back to the Future Day. Today is October 21st, 2015, and the entire internet exploded in celebration.
I gotta say,
Back to the Future Day.
Caught me off guard.
Caught me a little off guard too. I thought that it was just gonna be like a meme here and there, like
maybe, yeah.
But no, this is a full-blown fucking holiday at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because Back to the Future was always like my second favorite movie as a kid. Ghostbusters being my first. But I watched both religiously when I was young, and even now as I'm talking, I have the Huey Lewis, Power of Love playing on repeat in my head.
Well, check this out. How do you feel about this? Did you feel that Back to the Future 2 and 3 were
as good as one?
Well, not even as good. That they even really existed in the same universe as one. Because even as a kid, part of me kind of felt that 2 and 3...
I felt like 2 and 3 were a little bit disconnected, but I felt like I did feel like it was in the same universe. I felt like, it was, I could analyze it as an adult, but as a kid, I think
you were younger than me, so I was probably starting to get a little cynical.
Maybe your cynicism was...
I was starting to hear poop sounds on the radio. You know what I mean?
For me, I just thought this is they're getting a little sillier with it.
Yeah.
It was a little wacky, it was a little fun.
They cast Elizabeth Shue as his girlfriend.
I was too young to notice anything like that.
That was different, and it's like, what? The first one wrapped up in such a nice little package.
The first one was perfect from start to finish.
They went away and they said to be continued at the end, but I read today Robert Zemeckis said they never had any intentions of making a sequel.
Right. I mean, it was kind of the play on the whole time travel aspect of the movie, to be continued. That's obviously something to look forward to in the future as these people are time travelers. But you don't really need to know. You just need to know that the story continues as these people travel through time.
I feel a little bit in my soul that that it would have been in a way better if they'd never made 2 or 3. I would appreciate Back to the Future more if they never made 2 or 3. However, if they never made 2 or 3, we wouldn't have Back to the Future Day and all the hoverboard nonsense.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? So maybe
I'm super glad they made 2 or 3. I love both 2 and 3 separately. I love 2 because it did introduce all the cool futurism.
Yeah.
Going back to the past, that was cool, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. But for me as a kid, the fantasy of the future world, what's the future going to be like in 2015? To me, that was what time travel was all about for me.
Yeah.
I didn't care about. To me, traveling to the past was studying history in school. I didn't particularly care too much about the idea of going back to the 50s and all of that. They did some fun stuff with it, but to me,
I guess I just appreciated the weird authenticity of it. It just kind of felt weirdly authentic. You know what I mean? It's
I don't know what authentic was for that era. I mean, I guess, as a black dude, the 50s were much less fun.
I wasn't going to go there, but I thought about
time.
I was thinking about Chris Rock's thing. I was like, but you guys don't go back. Not much before 1982, was that what he said?
If black people are in a time machine, we only go back as far as maybe 79. That's kind of pushing it. But... I love the idea of the future world.
Yeah.
I think it did a lot of really cool stuff. And obviously one of the big focuses on the celebration of Back to the Future Day was all of the predictions.
Compare and contrast.
Yeah, Cubs going to the World Series and, teleconferencing and, all of the other cool tech. Not quote-unquote 9/11, depending on what silly blog you look at. That is out there.
I think it's just one guy.
I thought it was I think it made
Chris Hardwick at midnight last night just went on an extended riff that was actually pretty cool.
I need to watch that.
Yeah, watch it. It's really
I need to watch that. But 2, obviously, future stuff and all that. But 3, I think is really underrated. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff about 3, especially if you like westerns, old westerns, and cowboy
That's movies. Really going back into the past.
That's really going back into the past. That's going, to me, that touches, I think, a lot on, my parents liked watching westerns, when I was growing up. And I didn't really have an appreciation for westerns when I was a kid, but
Westworld.
I didn't watch Westworld as a kid.
Dude.
That TV show, HBO, Westworld, looks fucking crazy.
It does.
I have no idea.
I'm quite excited about it.
I'm excited, but I have no idea what to make of it at all, because it doesn't seem like the Westworld of that 70s movie. It seems...
Yeah, it definitely has been sexed up a little bit.
It's been sexed up a lot. But in the cowboy world of Back to the Future Part 3, to me, it introduced all the fun elements that I was endeared to in Part 2, and it made me respect the cowboy, the Western era a little bit more than I probably would have if it had just been, Blazing Saddles. Which is a great movie, but as a kid, I probably wouldn't have cared too much to see that one, because it would have just looked like a Western movie to me.
Did Back to the Future 3 come out before or after Unforgiven?
I think it came out before Unforgiven. I want to say before. It may have been right around the same time. Wasn't that also around the time that what? Well, there was a few movies, Western movies that came around that time, right? When was Youngbloods?
You're thinking Young Guns.
Or Young Guns.
There was Young Guns 1 and 2. Hilarious, I've never seen 1. I have seen 2. I like that. I like Young Guns 2 back in the day. Also, Tombstone was really
Tombstone was also around.
There was a bunch of Western. I mean, I think Unforgiven to me is like the Western. You know what I mean? Of all Westerns.
Of all Westerns.
Yeah.
To me, it has to be Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah.
I love the score for that is above and beyond the score for any Western I've ever seen.
I got in an argument with a dude one time, and he felt that Good, Bad, and the Ugly was the ultimate Western.
That's a good one, but that has some serious pacing issues for me. It's 3 hours long. It doesn't really need to be more than like maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But
I just think Unforgiven is the bomb.
Yeah. Well, Back to the Future Day. I didn't do anything to celebrate today other than be completely blown away. I do want one of those USA Today newspapers. It seems like there are a lot of companies that are doing things like Nike is releasing the self-lacing shoe, and Toyota they created
pretty cool.
Yeah, they created a recreation of the truck that Marty wanted.
I'd be just down with the newspaper though.
Yeah, the newspaper would be fine. I'm holding out that Mattel is going to put out that hoverboard though. I'm holding out for that hoverboard.
I don't think that's going to happen.
There are hoverboards out there that they're working on, like legit hoverboards.
I read an article in Slate earlier today, dude. It's
no. There's it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like you can just throw it on the ground and hover around wherever you want.
Yeah, I guess Lexus built the maglev hoverboard thing.
Lexus built one, and then some other third party out there built one too.
But it still won't hover like on just the ground.
No, it's not going to just hover on the ground.
Earth's magnetic force. You've got to basically have like a magnetic track.
Right. It's going to be it's like going to a skate park, right? You would just have to go to a skate park for a hoverboard.
Yeah,
which isn't. I mean, and everybody, I know. It's
not exactly like.
It's not like. It's not like. Well, for if you wanted something like the movie, it would have to be like the way that drone cameras operate, where it has those fans, circular fans and whatnot that levitate. You would just have to have super powerful fans, 4 of them at the edges of your board, and
you couldn't see them. It would have to look like the hoverboard.
It would have to look like the hoverboard. It would be a real big hoverboard.
Yeah, well, they made one of those. Like, it's a really huge hoverboard.
Really?
Yeah, that's got fans. Yeah. But I mean, it's like a fucking surfboard with fans all over it. I mean, the board from Back to the Future is like this long. It's like that thin. Has a little,
Yes, you have to adhere to the strict Steve Jobs, rigid sort of make it like this. Yes, this is the design. Adhere to it by the letter of the law. It sounds like, they've been trying really hard. The gear, the machine in Hollywood has been trying really hard to gain the rights to that franchise so they could remake it. And the guy that owns it, he says as long as he lives, he will never allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. It's a great movie. It's a great series. There's really nothing you could do to improve upon it. But if you do want to watch time travel movies, you have plenty of options for good ones. If you want...
I still haven't seen Looper.
Looper is a good one. Looper is a dark one. Looper is Bruce Willis and...
Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's actually... it was a funner movie than I thought it would be when I watched it.
Supposedly, the director of Looper is on board to direct episode 8 of Star Wars. Or episode 9.
Yeah, okay.
Or maybe episode 8 and 9.
That would be good because, I really liked Looper. I also liked Primer. And Primer was a hard
good.
watch.
Primer is typical. Have you seen Upstream Color?
No, I haven't.
Oh, neither have I. My brother saw it.
No. He just...
he saw it.
Well, Primer is more of a hard sci-fi sort of thing. It's for purists of the time travel genre. The guys that will always argue with you about the grandfather theory or the grandfather paradox. Primer is more based around that sort of, more to the closer to the metal area of time travel, as opposed to Back to the Future, where the dude's like borderline begging his mom. Much different affair. I don't know what other time travel movies.
There's a lot of good ones. So many good ones. There are a lot of great episodes of Star Trek Next Generation that are time travel.
Well, yeah. Well, Star Trek Next Generation is a totally different video that we could do on the side.
There's
but
a lot
there are
of
some
time
great
travel movies. Just off the top of my head,
I would not. I do like the movie as I guess half guilty pleasure and half Star Wars nerd, or Star Trek nerd. But I have First Contact, technically time travel movie, but
that was like seen by many as the best of the TNG movies. They just weren't that good in the TNG.
The TNG movies. Let's see.
Time travel movies. Just off the top of my head, Somewhere in Time is a good romantic time travel movie.
Never heard of it. No.
Oh, dude.
Is that like Kate Leopold? Which is another time travel rom-com?
No. This actually is it's one from the 70s. It's got Christopher Reeve in it. And it's in Mackinac Island, and basically he goes there and he meets this woman who's really old, but in her day she was just like Jane Seymour from the 70s. In her day, she was like an actress or something like famous, and then she gives him a book and she's like, come back to me, and then she dies or whatever, and then he reads the book, and through reading the book learns how to he just convinces himself that he's in the past. He goes to the same hotel that's basically hasn't changed at all since back in the day. He takes all this shit. Well, actually he tries it first and it doesn't work. And so he takes all the fucking modern shit and he just throws it away, and just in the hotel the way it used to be, and dresses in the period clothes and all that shit, and just starts convincing himself, hypnotizes himself, puts a recording the date is, and just loops it and just leaves everything staying there, something like that. And then of course it works. And he's in the past, and of course they get together and they fall in love, and it's great. And everything's going awesome. But there's also those people that don't want him to be with her. It's some romantic stuff, but then at the very end, it's I shouldn't tell you how.
Yeah, don't tell
the ending is actually pretty cool.
Good movie worth watching.
But that movie is bleak. And when I was a kid,
70s?
When I was a kid,
sci-fi 70s. There's nothing bleaker.
Yeah, when I was a kid, that movie scared the shit out of me because it had a Shining vibe. Because it was all the stuff that happened in the 20s and stuff was all, the music was, you know what I mean? And you'd see pictures of the 20s, and I hadn't seen The Shining, but that shit has always been scary. Something about the 20s.
The 20s is
the 20s in retrospect is scary.
Yeah, there is, because it has a lot of that sort of antique, ghosty sort of vibe to it.
By the 40s. Not as much, you know what I mean? The 40s is warm and fuzzy about the 40s, you know what I mean?
Well, I think there was there's a certain bleakness, I guess, to how, because the 20s is always, even though
it's the high water mark before shit just hit the fan.
Well, but it's also a mysterious time period still, because we know a lot about the 40s, we know a lot about World War II, we know a lot about the Great Depression. We know a lot of the Dust Bowl. We know a lot about, Cold War and everything that goes on there. We know a lot about the 20s, but it doesn't get talked about that much.
I agree. So it's a little more mysterious than the periods afterwards.
Right. So because of that, because of all of the antiquated, sort of designs, the Art Deco kind of art style of buildings, and the weird, photography wasn't super developed then, so photographs all look ghostly, and people.
The recordings are really early, and they sound super
they sound
creepy.
Ghostly, and people didn't know to smile in pictures.
Yeah.
It's just sounds.
I don't know, dude. That movie, just the ambiance of the movie, scared the shit out of me. My mom, of course, loved it, and my dad, they all used to watch it, and I would be just scared shitless by it. But that's cool. There's another movie from the 80s, a sci-fi movie. It's actually, it's probably terrible. It's a time travel movie, but in a way, it was kind of cool. It was called The Final Countdown. You can get it on probably
It's the Final Countdown.
Yeah, it was out before that song, though.
Was it?
And check it out. This is what it's about. So it's about this fucking naval aircraft carrier, right? Full of Tomcat jets and fucking F-16s and shit. And it's on the sea, and it's near Hawaii, right? And it goes into some crazy ass storm and goes back to the 40s, right before Pearl Harbor.
Oh.
And they realized they're in the 40s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they got all this weaponry. And they got these jets, and they could literally single-handedly pretty much win the freaking war. I mean, not win the war, but certainly stop Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And at one point, I don't remember what happens. I know I know they don't stop Pearl Harbor. I think they end up going back and not doing it somehow.
What's the movie called? Final Countdown?
Called Final Countdown. And the
Final
storm
Countdown.
comes back and they go back. But there is a scene where like these Japanese Zeros are just like really fucking with these people on a boat. Because in Hawaii, like they're on a boat and it's just like a family from the time and they're just like, you know, they're on like just swimming and having fun. And of course, you know, Japanese Zeros come down and start gunning them, you know what I mean, in the water. Because it was made in the 80s, you know, it wasn't, you know, the war wasn't as old, you know. But so they could do that. Well, then, of course, you know, the people and the guy on the boat is like, Mayday, Mayday! And of course, the people are cruising around these Tomcats. And they're like, let's go help these guys. And of course, they fly these Tomcats down there and just fuck these things up, dude. Just like blow them to pieces. You know, and as a kid, I was just like, "Oh, hell's yeah!"
America, yeah.
Well, yeah, it wasn't just it wasn't
was
so
also
much
like
America.
Yeah.
It was just like the badass futuristic.
Future versus
you
past,
go back in time.
Go back in time with a machine gun. Yeah,
you know what I mean? It was like
Alexander the Great.
It was like
the
that.
machine gun,
Yeah,
like,
you know what I mean? That was awesome.
Final Countdown. That's another one. We'll put this on a list.
I'm thinking of like these are, you know,
I can't think of
really
any other
stood out.
time travel.
You know,
movies
Looper's a
that stood
time
out.
travel movie.
Yeah.
It was good. We already named that one. I mean, there's so many. We're missing like the best ones.
We're probably missing you know, and if you know, just put them in the comments. There's probably
and not ones where like where a guy goes back in himself in his own body as a kid. Not like a real time travel movie where like they, you know,
jump through a wormhole or something, and you are suddenly, or the person is suddenly somewhere they should not be.
You mentioned Primer.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Terrible movie.
Is there a time travel? They made a 3.
They made a 3. It was about the turtles going back into feudal Japan. And it was one of the worst movies that was ever made.
There was a movie, and I don't even know the name of it. Maybe some of the commenters, and if we can get some like crazy hella nerds out there, more so than us,
hella nerds.
that remember this movie. And it was like a guy who it's in the future, and he goes back in time but he wants to become like a centurion. You know what I mean? And his idea is to go back to the Roman Empire. He has like all this modern technology, but it's like kind of like Roman armor and shit he's made, but it's all that modern. To go back in time and like rule, just fucking, and then somehow it gets fucked up. You know
what year did this movie come out?
I want to say it was in the 80s maybe, or the 70s. I think it was the 80s. I just vaguely remember it. At the very end, someone fucks up and he gets sent way back, and he's just trapped there. And he's like, "Rah!" It's the end of the movie.
Oh man,
you know what I mean?
Bleak 70s.
Yeah,
Bleak.
yeah. It might have
Have
even been a cartoon, but I don't think it was. I almost feel like we were going to be embarrassed that there's some movies where
absolutely. But that's what it always is. Whenever you're trying to bring something out, like whenever you're trying to think of something at the moment, you know, it's always difficult. Like when you walk, this is I'm about to say a really antiquated reference here, but it was like when you used to walk into a record store. And all of a sudden, you know,
you can't remember what it is.
You can't remember what you like. You're just lost. Like when you're not there, you're like, "Oh, I want to get this. I want to get that. I want to get this."
An episode of The Simpsons where they're buying the pretzels.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, Lenny's behind. He's like, "Hurry up, hurry up!" All it is pretzels. And the guy Carl's like, "Well, I don't know." And then he's like, "Come on!" And then there's one thing there. And then Carl gets his pretzel, leaves. Lenny gets up there. He's like
the same.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Jeez. Gosh. I want to say there's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that's a time travel movie that's actually not bad, but I could be thinking of Total Recall.
Or Eraser.
It's a Philip K. Dick. There's got to be a Philip K. Dick movie that's about time travel that's awesome.
We'll figure it out. But Back to the Future Day, time travel movies. The ones that we've recommended here, Looper, Primer, Final Countdown, and the other one, the Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. Somewhere in Time. That's like a sci-fi date movie. That's like you.
If you got a nerdy girlfriend, then
no, you shouldn't even be nerdy. That works on all girls.
Works on all. Okay.
If you're trying to woo a non-nerd, a muggle, let's say.
A muggle. But you can't do it without getting your fix of nerdism here and there.
Yeah. It's got some stuff. There's got to be a good Philip K. Dick one. You know, that's I'm blanking on it.
It happens. I watched the extended version of The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies.
I'm sorry.
It was rough. I mean, it was okay. It was. I mean, I liked the movie. It was just a video game that I was watching a video game.
Yeah.
R-rated because it was super gory, but it was a gory R-rated video.
I'm sure it was probably fun. I just like.
But I wouldn't recommend it unless you're like a super fan. There was a scene where Radagast gives Gandalf his staff and is like, it acts up a bit, so if you do that, just jiggle the top a little.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the scenes, I guess, that was cut from the original was like Gandalf going up against this monster, and he keeps trying to use the staff, but like it keeps shortened, so he keeps having to like, you know, jiggle the, and it's really
None
weird.
of that shit is in the book. I mean,
No,
honestly,
of course it's not in the book.
That I guess that was one of my issues with that. That is, it's kind of like Hobbit fan fiction. It's so radically different.
It is a
than
lot
what's
like,
in the book that it's just it's its own. You know, I mean, it's vaguely, you know.
And of course,
wacky shit.
My favorite part is the hot dwarf, the sexy dwarf.
The hot
He's
dwarf
the only
was. Yeah, they're all like kind of comical,
No,
and then he shows up and he looks like he plays bass and like, you know, Badfinger or some shit. You know
like
what I mean?
every dwarf in that movie has like bulbous facial features and
Yeah.
like, huge noses,
Except
and
for him.
crazy beards, and then this one guy, this one fucking dwarf comes out with like the slick 5 o'clock
Yeah.
shadow and the
The
angular
bangs,
face,
you know, he's
you know,
like ready to like
fucking guy liner, you know?
throw on a fucking jean jacket, and
Right.
grab a Les Paul and just.
And you're like, where the fuck did this dwarf come
Yeah.
from? He's not obviously of no relation to any of these guys. But of course he was there so that the elf they made up, you know.
Yeah,
It's like who is she gonna be the love interest to? Not these old fat
exactly.
faced.
No one
hairy
loves
dwarf.
them.
No one can ever love them. Oh, the sexy dwarf. Oh, you know.
No one's gonna buy that she just loves
You know.
one of these other characters for who they are.
Yeah, you
I
know.
mean, come on. This is an American movie we're making.
Right, it's gotta be sexy. He's gotta take off his dwarf shirt and be fucking ripped like Star-Lord. You know? Oh man, yeah. I would not recommend seeing Hobbit Battle of Five Armies, but the extended edition at least, unless you're a super Peter Jackson fan.
Yeah, I would say a Peter Jackson fan. I would say if
Yeah.
you're a Tolkien fan, you won't like it. You
No,
know what I
that's
mean?
not true. I went and saw it with a friend of mine who is like a super diehard
really?
Tolkien fan, but she loves everything that extends the
I know
movie
a lot of people
universe.
who really love the book that were just
Yeah.
like, fuck that movie.
There are a lot of people that are like really strict to book adaptations like that. Like,
Well, especially because the tone is so different. It's like they took a book that's it's more of a children's story. It's it has its moments of gravitas, but it's I mean compared to like Lord of the Rings, okay, but The Hobbit is.
The Hobbit was definitely.
It's not that.
Yeah, The Hobbit was definitely more flight of fancy. You know, it was definitely a whimsical sort of. Now we're gonna go on a journey and blah. That's a talking dragon and little hobbits and dwarves and all that. And Lord of the Rings was definitely a heavy-hearted affair. You know.
Yeah.
But all right, thanks guys. Ye Old Nerdcast, subscribe to it. Gonna have videos semi-regularly. Right now I'm working on a once-a-week cadence for the Steamrolled show. If you haven't watched that yet, I have 2 episodes up. It's all about my adventures into the world of indie games on Steam. It's very hit or miss. First one, well, I'll let you see for yourself, but...
I kind of liked the first one.
Did you?
I mean... I kept expecting something horrible to happen because it had a Silent Hilly vibe,
It did
and
have
I'm
a
just
little bit
kind of
of a
like sitting
horror
there
movie vibe.
waiting for the guy to like just put a fucking knife in his head and the screen to turn red, or like something horrible come to the door, and it never did.
It doesn't happen.
You know?
No. Well, there's a lot more like that on Steam, so be sure to check out Steamrolled and subscribe, and you'll get all the updates.
I've heard Soma is really good.
Soma.
That's like Zane was telling me he played it and he was like, fucking hell! He texted me, he was like, it's really great. It's like a survival horror. It's really good.
Okay, well, I'll add you to the
Maybe
list
that's
then.
next.
See you guys later.